In the beginning, the world was without shape, a swirling abyss of darkness and waters. This was the domain of Tehom, the great serpent of chaos, who coiled endlessly, its scales shimmering in the faint light of a sunless sky. The waters knew no bounds, and the land had no name. Above this formless expanse, silence reigned, until the voice of Tehut, the divine wisdom, broke through the void. "Let order rise," spoke Tehut, and at once the waters began to part. From their depths emerged a mound, Tatyenin, the first land, a sanctuary of possibility. Upon this sacred ground, creation began, and the sun rose for the first time, casting light across the waters. Centuries passed, and the world grew under the guidance of divine forces. Life flourished along the great river Nile, flanked by two sacred mountains. To the east rose Baku, from whose summit the sun greeted the world each day, bathing the valley in golden light. To the west stood Manu, the mountain of sunset, where the day retreated into shadow. Between them, the Nile flowed like a divine thread, weaving the stories of gods and mortals. In the shadow of these mountains, a child was born. His name was Manu, and his destiny was whispered by the gods themselves. He will bring unity to the land, taming the chaos that lingers in the hearts of men, the priests of Horus declared. As he grew, Manu was taught the ancient ways by the keepers of the shrine at Nekhen, where the invocations of Horus, the falcon god, echoed each dawn. Manu was not an ordinary child. He possessed the strength of a lion and the wisdom of Tehut. His eyes, like the Nile, reflected both the light of Baku and the shadow of Manu, and the people saw in him a bridge between the divided tribes. The land of the Nile was fractured. To the east, the Baku people, pale-skinned and red-haired, watched the rising sun and revered its light. To the west, the Manu people, dark-skinned and wise in the ways of the shadows, found their strength in the mysteries of the night. Though they shared the river, they lived as strangers, their hearts divided by mistrust and fear. Manu, now a young man, saw the suffering of his people. "How can we flourish while chaos rules our hearts?" he asked the priests of Nekhen. But the answer did not come from men. It came from the gods. One night, as Manu stood by the banks of the Nile, the twin lions Akher appeared to him. Their golden manes shimmered like the sun, and their voices were as deep as the river itself. "You are chosen," they said. "You must unite the lands of Baku and Manu. Only then will the Nile flow freely, and the blessings of Tehut be fulfilled." Manu took up the challenge with courage. He forged alliances through marriage, diplomacy, and war. He spoke the words of Tehut, reminding both tribes of their shared origin in the waters of creation. "We are one people," he declared. "The Nile flows through us all, and the light of Baku and the shadow of Manu belong to us equally." His greatest victory came at the sacred mound of Tatyenin. Here he brought the leaders of both tribes together and placed his hand upon the ground. "This land is neither Baku nor Manu," he said. "It is Jenu, the land of the united." From that day forward, Manu ruled as a just and wise king. He established the law of Tehut, a code that honored the balance between light and dark, order and chaos. The people prospered under his reign, their fields yielding abundant harvests, their children growing strong and wise. One dawn, as the sun rose over Baku, Manu stood atop Tatyenin. Behind him, the shrine of Horus glowed with offerings from his people. Before him stretched the Nile, its waters shimmering like a ribbon of light. Lifting his arms, Manu spoke. "Let the light of wisdom guide every heart, and the shadow of unity shelter every soul. As the sun rises and sets, so too shall we rise above chaos and find our place in the divine order." His words became a hymn sung by the people of the Nile for generations. The twin lions of Aker, guardians of unity, watched over his throne and later adorned the seat of the Coptic patriarch, a symbol of Manu's legacy. Though centuries have passed, the story of Manu and the Twin Mountains remains alive in the hearts of those who call the Nile home. It is a story of unity, wisdom, and the triumph of light over chaos, a song that began with the voice of Tehut and continues to echo through the ages.